Okay. Right, so the main thing is let's all try and be as relaxed as we can. I know that's quite difficult. We tend to fidget. That's a modern malaise. So if we try to just let go of this very busy sort of vibration that we generate when we are going about our daily life. And imagine you've come to a kind of a very welcoming retreat or haven, or welcoming place where you can just relax and not have to compete or be, outdo anyone. You don't need to be excessively busy. We don't need to prove anything to anybody, even to ourselves. Yeah, so Ashima, can you try to maintain that discipline? Yeah, yes. Maybe hands in the lap. Yeah, just fingers together. Yeah, this is, just try. It may not be easy, but just try, let go. Close your eyes, that will help. And bring your attention to the breath, which means the sensation of the breath. Just the sensation of breath in the body. As you breathe in, be aware of breath. And as you breathe out, be aware of the breath, the sensation of it if you can. And if you can locate that at the nostrils, that's well and good. If that's difficult, no problem. You might be able to observe the rising and falling of your abdomen as you breathe in and out. Very good. Let there be a sense of stillness in the body, a sense of relaxation. That's very important. And together with the relaxation, though, let us be alert and awake, but in a gentle way, not in a stressed out way, a relaxed attention. Like you would feel perhaps at the end of a hard day's work, you get home and you sit down in your favorite armchair and you take a sip of your favorite beverage and you just relax. There's a sense of contentment. But also alert, awake. So in our tradition, we also, in addition to having basic good posture, we emphasize the importance of a good motivation, intention at the beginning of a session. And this can help provide, what should we say, a good feeling, a good vibration, a good atmosphere, environment can be created right at the beginning through a powerfully beneficial motivation. So we motivate in an altruistic way, meaning we remember how all of us want to be happy and not suffer. And yet, due to many causes and conditions, there is so much pain, so much mental and physical pain brought on by the disturbing emotions, the effects of karmic predispositions, habitual patterns. So all of us go through some degree of pain, confusion. And in the world, there are billions and billions of people and countless animals, living beings who are living in pain, in suffering, uncertainty, anxiety, fear, and hatred, in tremendous longing, craving. And all of this is bringing sorrow, bringing frustration. So we remember beings, all these beings who are brothers and sisters to us. And we motivate that our practice together today will not just be focused on oneself, however important one is, and one is important, but we are just one person, so we should also remember countless other beings. So we generate that sense of concern and warmth towards others as well. So spend a few moments reflecting on this. You might want to think about people you feel close to, how they wish for happiness, find it quite difficult to obtain. So think, according to Lord Buddha and according to the experience of countless practitioners, we need to generate both wisdom and love, wisdom and compassion on the path, on the spiritual path. Wisdom understanding who we are, what we are, the nature of our minds, the nature of reality, and the love wishing deeply others to be happy, and compassion wishing others to be free of their suffering, based on very heartfelt concern, care for others. And in order to generate those qualities, in order to be of benefit to others, first of all, we do need to have some kind of stability in the mind, some kind of evenness, equanimity. So we start with the breath awareness practice to calm and stabilize this unruly mind, mad elephant mind, as the Buddha termed it, monkey mind, mad elephant mind. So bring your attention to the breathing, normal breathing, the sensation of it. At the point where it enters the nostrils, leaves the nostrils, you can focus on that area if you can. Let there be a sense of relaxing and letting go with the out breath. When the mind is distracted by thoughts, that's okay, it's natural. Let's see if you can just recognize that and gently bring the mind back, the attention back to the breath. Okay. Slowly allow yourself to gently move the body if you need. Open the eyes if they were closed. But see if you can maintain that state of serenity, calm, and relative stillness. Okay, so today, I think we will begin to look at a very, very famous and wonderful text by an Indian master, Shantideva, who lived in the 8th century and who also spent some time at the great University of Nalanda. And this work of his, the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, or the entering into the Bodhisattva's deeds, way of the Bodhisattva, it's sometimes called, or guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. This became a Mahayana classic, one of the main source books for compassion, developing that great mind of compassion and bodhicitta. And it's a text which Dalai Lama Ji, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, has said that if I have any compassion, then it's based on this book, this text, and the teachings he received on this text from a very great meditation master from Kinnaur district of Himachal Pradesh, Kunu Lama Rinpoche. He gave Dalai Lama Ji teachings on this text in Bodh Gaya and maybe some other places as well. And this text is very loved, and it is taught a lot in the Mahayana tradition. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has taught it so many times all over the world, especially in Dharamsala. And so that's who mainly I've heard teachings from on this text, as well as from other teachers, because it's taught so often. Yeah, one's not, strictly speaking, supposed to talk about any text or teach any text unless one has also received teachings on it oneself from a qualified master. So I do pass that test, although not much else. But I have received teachings on this text several times. Okay, just a few things, just a story about Shantideva. Some of you may have heard before, which is quite interesting, revealing. So he was at Nalanda Monastery, this great monastic university in present-day Bihar, which you can still see ruins of. So he was there, but he was not appreciated, it seems, not appreciated by his fellow students. In fact, they gave him a name, I think, Busuku, which for them meant somebody who just was eating and sleeping and going to the toilet. because that is all they could see. That's all they saw of Shantideva: eating, sleeping, going to the toilet. And this, of course, is in the daytime. And what they didn't know is that Shantideva stayed up all night doing whatever he did, his practice, his prayers, his meditation, whatever. You know, that's the quietest time. So it seems he didn't go to the classes, but he stayed up all night. Anyway, people didn't like him because, you know, we base our opinions of people on what we see, right? And what we presume in our biased outlook. We don't know the whole truth about people, do we? Anybody. I mean, I wonder how many people we know the whole truth about. We don't even know ourselves so well, let alone other people. But we're very quick to judge other people. Anyway, Shantideva was similarly judged by his peers at Nalanda. So they got so fed up with him, actually, from what they could observe, that they decided they would humiliate him. And they decided to humiliate him by asking him to give a teaching. They would ask him to give a teaching, you know, ask him. And they asked him, and he readily agreed. And they were so happy that they would finally get their chance to show him, for the you know, deceiver that he was, the lazy scoundrel that he was, you know, staying in that illustrious university and not studying, eating, sleeping, defecating. So he agreed. So the day of the teaching came. They constructed a throne for him, you know, like traditional thrones, in order to make it even more of a humiliation. And so he ascended the throne, and he asked them if they wanted to hear an old teaching, something they knew already, or did they want a new teaching? So they were chuckling and very happy, you know, thinking this guy is just, you know, digging his own grave, you know, really going to make an idiot, a fool of himself. So they said, yeah, please give us a new teaching. Yeah, new teaching. So then he taught this text. He went right through from beginning to end. He taught this extraordinary text. And of course, they were dumbfounded and ashamed and so forth. And they asked him, please, you know, please stay with us, stay at Nalanda and teach and so forth. But he'd had enough of Nalanda by then. And he had other things to do, other people to go and help or whatever, because he was a Mahasiddha, like very, very great being with many spiritual powers, quite apart from being what we call a Bodhisattva, meaning someone with authentic bodhicitta, the compassion, the great aspiration, wishing to become a Buddha in order to benefit others. He had that mind, spontaneous mind of bodhicitta. So he left Nalanda, but his legacy is this extraordinary text in 10 chapters, which is talking about how to cultivate, how to maintain this precious mind of altruistic mind of great compassion, bodhicitta, which is the heart of the Mahayana teachings. So as you may know, in the Theravada tradition, the aspiration, the goal is to attain arhatship through the cultivation of moral conduct, ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom. Okay? Through the excellent practice of that, one can attain freedom from delusion and karma, freedom from samsara. One can become an arhat, attain liberation from samsara for oneself. This is something which fulfills our own purpose. It does not fulfill the purpose of others. Only so far as, you know, One can teach others while one is alive and be an inspiration to others. And even after death, of course, one could still be an inspiration to others, but one is not engaged in actively benefiting others after death because one is in a state of peace, freedom. This, of course, is challenged and by the Mahayanists, who say, would say that is limited. To be an arhat is limited because you've basically only liberated or helped one person. But what about everybody else? So the Mahayana attitude is must work for the benefit of all sentient beings. All sentient beings are suffering tremendously. I must help everybody. What use is my own happiness if my mothers are suffering? That's how they put it, because there's this sense that everybody has been kind to us. Everybody has been like our mother in one lifetime or another. How can I enjoy happiness when my mothers are suffering? And it's like a person who is responsible for a lot of people, maybe a mother or father of a large family. How can they go out and enjoy themselves, if their children are starving or unhappy or, for whatever reason? So a similar idea, the Bodhisattva regards everybody as part of their family in that sense. They are concerned about everybody. So there's that attitude, that extraordinary attitude, amazing attitude, which can be developed, it is said, in the mind through practice. Bodhicitta, the enlightenment thought, the awakening mind. So this is what Shantideva is introducing us to in this text, through how to cultivate it, how to guard it, and how to make it more powerful through enthusiastic effort, through meditation, through patience, through wisdom. All of this is taught in this extraordinary text. And of course, we're only going to look at a few chapters, perhaps over the next few weeks until the summer break. And it can provide, I think, a lot of food for thought and discussion. Yeah. Okay, so let's start. Maybe we can, could you hand me that? Thank you. Even, you can borrow my text. So some of you have a different translation from others, but if you come to chapter 1, of course, one of the editions, the Padmakara translation one, that has a very good introduction as well. But let's go through it in a traditional way and then stop and discuss and like that, okay? So, no, you can read it. You can read out the other translation maybe. Okay. So the first chapter, what is it called in that text? Excellence of Bodhicitta. And in the other text, it's called the benefits of the awakening mind. The benefits of the awakening mind. Come to chapter 1, please. Benefits of this awakening mind of Bodhicitta, which is like a panacea for the world. So Shantideva here, in the beginning, it's traditional to show respect to the Buddhas. So he prostrates to the Buddhas, to the Sugatas, who are endowed with the Dharmakaya. This refers to the wisdom, if you like, of the Buddhas, the wisdom aspect of the Buddhas, as well as to their noble children, which means as well as to the Bodhisattvas. So he's bowing down to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and to anybody who is worthy of respect. What does it say in your version? Huh?
The whole paragraph?
Yeah, please, that verse.
All their heirs to all those worthy of respect I have been vowed. According to the scriptures, I shall now.
Yeah, that, okay, yeah, there's 1b as well, yeah. 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 So here he's just saying what he's going to do. He's shown respect, which is a very traditional Indian, wonderful tradition. We show respect in the beginning. In fact, whenever we meet people, whenever we go to their houses, there's some kind of exchanging of respect, isn't there? So here also, he bows down to the Buddhas, those who fully awaken themselves, and to their children, the Bodhisattvas who are aspiring to that, who have already generated this extraordinary mind of compassion. He's bowing down to them as well. And he says, I'm going to explain, you see, I shall explain how to engage in the vows of the Buddha's children. The activity, the vows of the Bodhisattvas. They're called the Buddha's children. The meaning of which I've condensed. Now you have the text. If just be careful that if you're reading ahead of me, you might miss what I'm saying, which of course might not be such a loss, but then you won't know where we are. Okay, that's the danger with giving out a text. People start reading far ahead and think that that's very good to do, but no, just stick with us. Okay, he's saying he has condensed the meaning of these teachings in accordance with the scriptures. This is important. Nowadays, people learn a little bit about something and they decide they're qualified to write a book about it or some thesis, you get some idea about something and okay, I'm going to write about it. Not so great. But here he's saying, I'm writing this in accordance with what I've learned from the scriptures, from the holy text, from the Buddha's words, from the scriptures and the words of, great masters, and especially Lord Buddha, his teachings. So he's saying, it's not something I made up myself, in a moment of inspiration. Of course, this is not to say that great people like Shantideva cannot put in their own experience. Of course they do. But he's saying this to reassure us that he's not just making this up and it doesn't have a flimsy foundation. He's basing it on the very, very authentic teachings of Lord Buddha and other great beings. Yeah? And he's very humble in the next verse. He's saying there's nothing here that has not been explained before. मतलब he's not saying कि ये मैं कोई नया धर्म या कोई नया याना या कुछ नई चीज सुना रहा हूँ. ये तो सब पहले सुना चुके हैं लोग. And I have no skill in the art of rhetoric. Again, he's being humble. Therefore, lacking any intention to benefit others, I am writing this in order to acquaint it to my own mind. So really, he's being very humble, too humble maybe. Saying, I can't help you guys, I can't really help you by writing this, but at least I'll help myself, I'm writing this in order to habituate it to my own mind. Yeah, this is just traditional way of, you might say it's artificial, but anyway, he's writing this, I think, in order to show that it is good to have humility, not to boast. Because he could boast here, couldn't he? He could say, like people do nowadays, I've been to, I've got an MA from here and a BA from there and a PhD from there. And I wrote this book and that book and this, monograph. People sometimes start their lectures and all with a lot of information about themselves and their own greatness. So here he's being humble. I think it's good. What do you think? You think it's a good thing or it's too artificial what he's saying? Kaise lag raha hai? You like the way he started or you think it's
very natural.
Huh?
It's very natural.
It is kind of, well, yeah, natural. It is natural actually.
It's not true.
Huh?
Maybe it's not true.
It's not true.
So the Bodhisattva is naturally acting. But he's just not saying it.
Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, if he started by saying, I'm really skillful, I'm a bodhisattva, I'm writing this to benefit you all, हम लोग सोचेंगे यार ये थोड़ा सा कुछ politician जैसे लग रहा है, So Shantideva was not a politician. Excuse me? Yeah, yeah, they do. Okay, so here, luckily, we have someone who's immersed in a tradition of wholesomeness and goodness and proper wisdom, parampara, a proper ancient wisdom, parampara, you could say, of India, a tradition which comes from a very wholesome source. 4, due to acquaintance with what is wholesome, the force of my faith may for a short while increase because of these words. If, however, these words are seen by others equal in fortune to myself, it may be meaningful for them. Matlab kehne ka, yeah, you get that? Because of his acquaintance with what is wholesome, and we'll get acquainted to some wholesomeness when we read this text, he's saying the force, my own faith may increase because of what I write. It may help me to increase my own faith. And if, however, these words are seen by other people and who are equally have some good karma, good fortune like me, then it may be beneficial for them. It may be meaningful for them. Matlab, he's admitting what I'm writing could be beneficial for others. He's beginning to say, he's not saying this is not going to be beneficial or, he's only writing it for himself, what he cares, but he's also hoping it may be of benefit to others. So there now he's starting with a very, very important point in verse 4. He's saying that leisure and endowment are very hard to find. Leisures and endowments refer to the freedoms we have as a human being, free from having very, very difficult situations of pain and so forth. We are free of the extreme pain and of animals and hell beings and so forth. And also we don't have excess pleasure like some of the God realms. So therefore, we have a good situation. We have all the conditions necessary to practice the dharma. That's what leisure and endowments means. We're endowed with excellent conditions and helpers and good body and mind. We are interested in the teachings. There are teachings available. We're living in a country where we're allowed to study and practice. All of these things are there. Yeah, which is not the case everywhere. So we are very fortunate. And we shouldn't think these circumstances we have are easy to find. You see, we modern people, I would say modern people, we take a lot of things for granted. We don't realize how things have causes and conditions. I mean, we do, but often we don't think about it enough. For example, if we have a good body and a good mind, an interest in the dharma, we may just take it for granted. And we don't realize that we have that situation because we created the causes for that situation. When did we create the causes? Not when we were a baby, not so much earlier in this life, although there could be triggers there, of course. But according to Buddhism, the main causes for these kind of excellent circumstances are to be found in previous existences. The actions we have created in previous existences, they have created the karmic energy to bring us this good situation now, where we have all of the factors we need to study and practice. So he's saying these are very hard to find because actually their cause is basically a very wholesome activity, moral activity, generosity, power of prayer. All these things are said to be the cause for having this excellent human situation now. So if we look at our own life, how much in our life is devoted to, pure moral conduct, generosity, power of strong prayer? How much time do we spend on these things? So apparently we have done it before, and that's why we have these good conditions now, which we take for granted. And which we often waste. We waste this human life, not realizing how fortunate it is. So he's saying these conditions are hard to find. since they accomplish what is meaningful for humanity, if I don't take advantage of them now, how will such a perfect opportunity come about again? Don't take it for granted. Don't waste it. It's not easy to have such an opportunity again. You must take advantage now. You know, it's like saying you want to do further studies or something, and there's an opportunity to get, and it's quite hard, but you have the opportunity to get certain scholarship or something now. It's not going to be there forever, and you have the means, you have the intelligence, you have the whatever else you need, and you have all these conditions. If you don't take advantage, then it's not going to be there forever, and it doesn't come again easily. It's said that it's very hard, very rare to get this kind of special human rebirth where we don't just, it's not just about having a human body. Many people have human bodies, but how many people have human bodies where we also have the conditions and the interest, the ability, all the facilities to practice spiritual path, authentic spiritual path, which can lead us to liberation and enlightenment. How many people have this opportunity in the world? Very few to take a percentage. So few, because people are distracted by worldly concerns and other things. So very little time is given to spiritual pursuits, meaningful spiritual pursuits. So if we're just spending our life to dominate others, make a lot of money, just have as much pleasure as we can, then that does not qualify for what Shantideva is speaking of this, now. This kind of human body he's speaking of now is not that one which is just totally immersed in worldly concerns. No way. Yeah, my concern now is I need something. Could somebody just get me some water or even some of that? Would you mind? Thank you so much. Actually, some juice would be nice. I'm enjoying orange juice after many days. Somebody donated some to Tushita. And welcome Elaine and others who have come recently. Yeah. So I hope we're getting this a little bit, how we do have this extraordinary opportunity. And it's so easy to forget, so easy to forget. I mean, we don't even think about it in that way. But think of all the people who are having difficulties in the world today, like warfare and starvation and being refugees and so forth. How much opportunity do they have right now to really invest time and energy in spiritual practice, spiritual path? Nothing. They have to focus. Thank you so much. Okay. They have to focus on their survival, just their survival. And of course, there are beings who are born in places where there is no access to spiritual teachings, right? And all of us here, or many of us here, we have had access to some of the greatest teachers, alive. We're so fortunate, so fortunate. Yeah, but because of the power of distraction and unwholesome habits, we quickly forget these things. We can easily forget our opportunity and just spend this precious human life in meaningless pursuits. So Shantideva is reminding of this. And in the next verse, he compares a wholesome thought to a flash of lightning. He says, just as a flash of lightning on a dark, cloudy night, for an instant, brightly illuminates everything, likewise in this world, through the might of Buddha, a wholesome thought rarely and briefly appears. Yeah. Well, some of us may, if we check what is a really wholesome thought, how many really wholesome thoughts have we had today? We've had selfish thoughts, we've had self-centered thoughts preoccupied preoccupied with me and mine and my problem and what I want, what I don't want, my fears, my anxieties, my wants, my, isn't it? How many thoughts have we had which really kind of wholesome in terms of their effect and also their considering of others? You know, how many? We should check. It would be embarrassing to check. So he's saying it's like a flash of lightning. A wholesome thought comes and goes very quickly. And that also through the might of Buddha, meaning through the might of the awakened mind. Somehow he's saying that it's due to the inspiration of the Buddhas that we have these beneficial thoughts. You may want to disagree with that, that's okay. What he's saying is it's rare. If we were to check carefully our thoughts, aspirations during the day, we would find the unwholesome or useless thoughts outnumber the wholesome ones, a great deal, by a large factor. Hence, he says, virtue is perpetually feeble, the great strength of immorality being extremely intense. And except for a fully awakening mind, by what other virtue will it be overcome? Okay, so virtue, this old-fashioned word, virtue is that kind of action, thought, which leads to happiness, and liberation, And he's saying it's very feeble. Immorality is very strong. That seems for sure. Nowadays, but Shantideva was saying even at that time, immorality is very strong. So killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, idle gossip, covetousness, ill will, wrong views, all of these 10 unwholesome activities, very strong, and variants of them, very strong, very intense. And he's saying only this very precious mind, the fully awakening mind, can totally overcome this. He's saying, what other virtue could overcome it? Fully awakening mind, referring here to bodhicitta, which is what this text is basically about. This aspiration to become fully enlightened in order to benefit all sentient beings. I mean, motivated by great compassion. It's not just a thought. It's not just some intellectual thought that he's speaking of. It's deeply felt, total transformation of the state of mind of that practitioner. That's intent on Buddhahood in order to help others, liberate others. All the Buddhas who have contemplated for many eons have seen it to be beneficial, for by it, the limitless masses of beings will quickly attain the supreme state of bliss. Buddhas is like have been in consultation and have thought about these things for so long, and they're saying that they've seen this great compassionate mind of bodhicitta to be highly beneficial. Because due to that, if it were to be generated, limitless masses of beings could quickly attain the supreme state of Buddhahood, supreme state of bliss. That's the quick method to attain Buddhahood, to develop that supreme mind of bodhicitta. Those who wish to destroy the many sorrows of their conditioned existence, and those who wish all beings to experience a multitude of joys, and those who wish to experience much happiness, should never give up, should never forsake this awakening mind. Yeah? Is it pretty much the same in the other translation? So if you want to give up sorrow, you have to create the causes of its opposite. If you want to experience joy, you can't go on creating causes of misery. And this, at one point, Shantideva does mention this. And, you know, you can feel how sad he is because he sees how beings want to be happy, desperately want to be happy, right? But what do people do? You know, what do beings do? Just keep on creating causes for pain. The way they think and behave and react and everything. We just create causes for our own sorrow. Of course, we blame other people for our pain, for our sorrow usually, but the main root of it is in our own minds. We keep on creating the state of mind that has pain, has sorrow. Other people or situations in life or sicknesses, they are just triggers. But we have created the cause to suffer. And a lot of our behavior, of course, it's very easy to see how it creates pain for ourselves and others. Of course, to see this clearly, we have to understand karma. Because if someone hurts another person, we see the pain of the person who is hurt, but we don't see the pain, the suffering that the perpetrator, the hurt giver, we don't see the pain that person is creating for themselves. Usually we feel very sorry for the person who has been hurt, but the person who is showing hatred and you know, is using violence, we don't often feel sorry for them, but they are creating tremendous pain for themselves. Anyway, there are many sorrows in our existence, and this mind of bodhicitta, this is going to help us experience joy and happiness. The moment this awakening mind arises in those who are fettered, you know, tied up and weak in the jail of cyclic existence, they will be named a child of the Buddhas, child of the Sugatas, and they will be revered by both humans and gods of the world. So he's likening this samsara that we're living in to a jail. It is like a jail. We're weak. There's a kind of weakness, a sense of frustration of being tied up, bound by our desires, our hatreds, our jealousies, our pain, our misery, our being fed up. You know, it's like we're weak in this jail. We're struggling in this jail. You know, occasionally we have a better cell than the last time, but it's all a jail. And sometimes there's tremendous pain. We get beaten. We get, you know, all sorts of things happen to us in jail, in this jail. But the moment, you know, if we were to generate this amazing state of mind, you know, this bodhicitta, not only will we be suitable to be called, will be appropriate to be called a child of the Buddhas, you know, one of the Buddha's children, but we'll also be the object of respect, of reverence by humans and gods. Due to the power of that amazing mind, it has an effect on others, and they begin to respect us. Of course, we're not generating this mind in order to get other people's respect, but it will naturally happen. I think we may have I've certainly met a lot of people whom I naturally respect. I just feel that respect for them due to the power of their, you know, whatever, their goodness, their wisdom, their compassion. Some people, very, very easy to respect. Their nobility, really, their dignity. Yeah, we feel that. And here it is, very famous, very wonderful verse. It's like this bodhicitta transforms us. It has this transformative power. It is like the supreme gold-making elixir, for it transforms the unclean body we've taken, transforms it into the priceless jewel of a Buddha form, therefore firmly seize this awakening mind. So, in alchemy, they try to transform the base metal into gold, So it's like we have this body with so many problems, so many sicknesses, so many, diseases, worms, so many shortcomings, so many sicknesses, easy to harm, easy to die. We have this kind of body and mind. He doesn't mention mind here, but anyway, he mentions the body. And with this precious mind of bodhicitta, we can transform it into a Buddha's body. So what does that mean? Well, a Buddha has three bodies. We speak of trikaya, which also differentiates Mahayana from Theravada. Theravada have a sense of the Buddha being somebody who was born as a prince, not yet Buddha, at least historical Buddha, not yet Buddha when he was born. Highly unusual being, obviously, very, very special being, but not yet Buddha. And so then he becomes a Buddha in that lifetime, right? We know the story. So he becomes a Buddha in that lifetime, and he teaches in that body of a human, and then dies, and is cremated and so forth. According to Mahayana, Buddha is more than that. Buddha has three aspects. Buddha has, of course, a human aspect. That's just one aspect. Well, he also has a more rarefied body of light called the Sambhogakaya, or complete enjoyment body. And he has that aspect of the enlightened nature of his mind, that quality of his pristine quality of the Buddha's mind, we call the Dharmakaya. So that he also has that kind of body, which can only be understood and seen by other Buddhas. The enjoyment body, it's a kind of subtle body of light, that can only be seen by highly realized practitioners, but it gives teachings to highly realized beings. That's the Sambhogakaya. And for us ordinary beings, the Buddha manifests as a flesh and blood body, human. But the Buddha could, if he, she wanted, manifest in any kind of form, a dog, a cat, any kind of being, a beggar, prostitute, anything that could benefit others in some way, the Buddha can manifest in that way, according to Mahayana. So when he says the priceless jewel of a Buddha form, that has great meaning. So many ways to benefit, so many kinds of bodies, so many methods Buddha has, so many different forms. Sambhogakaya, or that body of light, that gives continuous teachings on Mahayana teachings to bodhisattvas. And even the Nirmanakaya, or the form body that we can see, there could be many, many, many different forms of that. Countless. From just one Buddha mind could manifest countless forms. So this comes from where? This comes from the compassion. The bodhicitta. Bodhicitta comes from great compassion. Great compassion comes from basic compassion. So, it's very, very important to remember the basic compassion. It's like the new moon becomes the full moon. We start with some love and compassion. It grows. We have deeper and deeper and more profound and all-embracing manner of forms of compassion, depth of compassion, until it becomes the bodhicitta, where we totally dedicate ourselves to the benefit of all beings. Strange as it may sound, it's possible. Yeah. One could go verse by verse, but this text is available online also. There are some verses here which would take a little while. For example, if you were to go to verse 21, he's comparing this bodhicitta with ordinary sort of states of mind. He's saying, if even the thought to relieve living creatures of merely a headache is a beneficial intention endowed with infinite goodness, then what need is there to mention the wish to dispel their inconceivable misery, wishing every single one of them to realize boundless good qualities? So, it's considered good if you wish to relieve someone of a headache and actually help them, of course, that's also wonderful, obviously. That's considered good and beneficial. But what about somebody who, is thinking all the time, how can I benefit others to the nth degree? How can I benefit others in the sense that help them get rid of all of their suffering, their inconceivable suffering, all the levels of their suffering. And, wishing them to, generate all the qualities of a Buddha mind, boundless good qualities, qualities without limit. Wouldn't that be amazing? But unusual, of course. It may seem like a fairy tale right now, but he's saying, wouldn't that be amazing? What need to mention how amazing that would be? And he asks whether even fathers and mothers have such a benevolent intention as this. Yeah? Do fathers and mothers even think in this way? Do the gods and the sages, does even Brahma have this kind of intention? To dispel the inconceivable misery of beings and wish them to achieve the boundless good qualities of a Buddha. Even parents don't have that wish. Parents wish their kids to be happy and get a good job and earn enough to, survive and, like that, and marry and have children or whatever. But parents don't have any idea of wanting their children to become Buddhas, Even Buddha's parents, at least the king, he didn't want his son to become a great being, a great sage or anything like that. People want their children to become rich, become princes. Well, not princes, so many, but anyway, you know what I mean. Successful, smart. Smart is important nowadays. Wise, I don't know, but smart, yes. Smart and rich. Have the right kind of home, right kind of car, etc., etc. So how many mothers and fathers have the attitude of bodhicitta? Yeah. If those beings have never before even dreamt of such an attitude for their own sake, then how would it ever arise for the sake of others? Yeah, they never even dreamt about that kind of mind, bodhicitta mind, for their own sake. And how would it possibly arise then in them for the sake of others? This intention to benefit all beings, which doesn't arise in others, even for their own sake, is an extraordinary jewel of the mind. Its birth is an unprecedented wonder. Yeah. Extraordinary jewel of the mind. Its birth is an unprecedented wonder. It's extraordinary to generate such a mind. He says unprecedented. Of course, it is precedented. People have done it before. But what he's saying is it's so rare. It's so precious. It's so extraordinary. It's so rare. Okay, let's have some discussion. Unmute you poor muted beings in the jail of samsara, unable to speak, unable to. Just a sec. Okay. Just wait one moment, because Naveen had his hand up earlier. He's one of our virtual people, and he's in Kerala. Naveen, you have to unmute yourself, old boy.
Hi, Sagar. Thank you, Kabirji. It was very useful. I had a quick doubt in the translation between evil and not virtuous.
Evil and not virtuous. Which verse?
This is verse
6.
6, yes.
Can you read what you have?
So I have, just misplaced my, yes. Hence, virtue is perpetually feeble, the great strength of evil being extremely intense.
Yeah, that's okay. Evil is a bit old-fashioned, but that's what it means. It means something which is going to be harmful and lead to suffering. Yeah.
So is it about stickiness?
Good.
It's about when you say evil, is it about self-grasping stickiness, or is it something more than that?
Evil here could be anything that creates suffering. Great strength of immorality. Evil is not so much referring to that self-grasping ignorance, although it comes out of it, of course. It's a consequence of that. But it's talking about basically this immorality. If you look at the 10 non-virtuous actions, that could, in a sense, be called evil. Although it's, again, a word that is not such a useful word now, I think, because it's, it has too many Abrahamic sort of biblical overtones, which maybe aren't so suitable in Buddhism. So non-virtuous, immoral, destructive, like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ashima here. Yeah. Sorry?
You're very articulate.
Very good. Say something more. Praising. Yeah, praise me even more, then I can puff up more.
I just love listening.
Yeah. Very good. You probably don't get such opportunities at Delhi University. I'm being praised, by the way, so I'm just deflecting it. Yeah, TK, good. Do you have a question?
I couldn't still the monkey mind.
Yeah, that takes time. She couldn't still her monkey mind. This is,
and all kinds of thoughts kept flooding in. And it was difficult to focus on breath. And I tried and failed. Today I failed. Again as well.
TK, no problem.
Not that I didn't want it to.
You tried.
No, it just races.
It does, yeah. Any question regarding our text?
Those 3 aspects of Buddha, three aspects of Buddha.
Yes.
One is physical, another 2 is in.
They are more immaterial, yes.
Are they still communicating with sadhaks or anyone?
The Dharmakaya, or the wisdom truth body, can only be perceived and understood by other Buddhas. The Sambhogakaya is only perceived, that is for the sake of very high level sadhaks, the Bodhisattvas actually, who have already some insight into selflessness, into anatta, so and great compassion and so forth. So the Sambhogakaya aspect can communicate, can be understood, is visible, you could say, or accessible to them, those high beings. And for the rest of us, it's the Nirmanakaya, ordinary form body of Buddha. Although there are stories how some people who had very negative karma, they couldn't even see the Buddha properly, or at least they couldn't see him in that kind of form of having a good human body. So that depends also. There could be some beings who don't have the ability to see a fully awakened Nirmanakaya, like the world teacher, Buddha. Yeah. There's this famous story, long story, I won't repeat it, of Maitreya Buddha appearing as a dog to Asanga. So Asanga was very happy when at least he could see Maitreya even as a dog, because he hadn't been able to see Maitreya at all. But he realized that Maitreya was appearing as a dog, so he put the dog over his shoulder and ran through the town shouting, his joy at having perceived Maitreya. But he said nobody could see what he had on his shoulder. He had this dog on his shoulder. Well, just one old woman could see part of the dog or something like that, because she had some karma to see, even the dog-like aspect of Buddha. So, yeah, but for us, mostly Buddha communicates through the flesh and blood body of a being. And in Mahayana and Vajrayana, we consider many of our teachers to be like, to be Buddhas, to be Guru Buddhas, as we say, manifestations of Buddha energy. Like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he is regarded as a Buddha by many, many, many disciples. Yeah. We're going to stop in 10-15 minutes. So people who want to ask should ask. Yeah. Vishad? Yeah, Vishad bhai.
In the ninth, in the ninth paragraph.
Yeah.
Ninth is it? Yes.
Ninth verse.
In the translation that I have, it says when the spirit of awakening has arisen. So when it says spirit of awakening, it's not the awakening, right? Just the spirit, the intention.
You're talking of that's another way of saying bodhicitta.
Oh.
Bodhicitta is, bodhi is awakened, bodhi. And chitta is mind. But actually, it's not yet a completely awakened mind, yeah? What it's referring to is the awakening mind, which has awakened, which is bodhicitta, which is the aspiration to highest enlightenment, aspiration to Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. But it's called bodhicitta, but it's not yet full enlightenment of bodhi. That's why we could call it the awakening mind. It's still awakening. It's still got some waking up to do. But the aspiration is there to become a Buddha, to benefit all beings. Yeah. It's also called what? It's called, what are the other words for bodhicitta? Awakening. Elaine, can you think of any other terms that Geshe-la has used while translating bodhicitta into accessible English? Awakening mind, awakened heart, mind of enlightenment, of course, mind of enlightenment, which doesn't mean a mind that is already enlightened, but a mind that is being generated. Yeah. Okay. I think Elaine is immersed in her text. Yeah. You weren't listening.
I'm trying to think of another word because it's even more than great compassion. You see, it's much more than just great compassion. So I'm just thinking of another word and I can't think of anything.
Doesn't matter, but yeah.
But Kabirji, in verse 5, the dark night, as he's saying, virtuous thoughts arise, brief and transient. So, but that is not enough, right? A virtuous thought may come once in a while. And then a little later, he says, in that, should bodhicitta come to birth in those who suffer, in that instant they are called the children of the blissful one. So there's quite a gap between having just virtuous thoughts and building up bodhicitta, isn't it? So the transition from virtuous thoughts to bodhicitta, Kabirji.
No, he's saying how rare it is even to have a good
Yes.
thought in this world.
Okay.
He's saying how rare it is. Then he's comparing it to the benefit of having bodhicitta. I mean, he will explain in this book how to get from A to B, right?
Right.
But
right.
So he's saying basically the state we're in is pretty hopeless almost, because but if we were to generate that bodhicitta, we would be very fortunate. We would experience all this joy, and we'll be called children of the Buddhas and so forth. It will.
So Kabirji, a good way would be to have, to even begin to get to it is to have more and more virtuous thoughts, so that it kind of, doesn't give you too much time for the non-virtuous ones.
Yes, so you try and crowd out the
crowd out the non-virtuous ones.
Have a big battle. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's kind of clumsy language to use that I'm using, but yeah, we have to increase the power of the wholesomeness, don't we? We have to short circuit the self-cherishing attitude and the self-grasping ignorance through wisdom. It's not just good thoughts that are going to do it, is it? We have to see how things are illusory like, and how our solid mind, what we take to be the solid me, and my real painful, horrible thoughts, we have to see how they are basically like rainbows, like dream material, like an illusion, don't we? Then we really get going. It's not enough just to have good thoughts. There has to be the wisdom aspect as well. Otherwise, we keep on grasping. And then we could even start grasping at how good we are, grasping at our good thoughts, and being quite proud of our good thoughts and how holy we're becoming, isn't it? So emptiness helps us avoid all of that, I think. Yeah. Speak up, please.
So in verse 5, likewise in this world, through the might of Buddha. So can the word might be translated or be understood as grace? Because
as what?
Grace. Is there some concept of grace in the sense?
Grace?
Grace.
No, not really. I wouldn't say grace. That's a very Christian concept, or maybe Hindu. Grace, yeah, of course, there can be. But here it's talking about the amazing activities of Buddha energy. I mean, because Buddha energy is actually everywhere all the time, actually, if we open ourselves up to it. Just like during the daytime, sunlight is everywhere if we open the windows and so forth. So I think that's what it means, the might of the Buddha. It's the power of the skillful activity of the Buddhas. Buddhas have three aspects, they say, in general. Great compassion, universal compassion, great wisdom, total wisdom, and powerful, skillful means, power to benefit others. So this refers to the power aspect, the skillful means aspect. And if from our side we are ready, then we could experience it as grace, possibly. But I don't know the technical meaning of that term, grace. I'm not sure. What else?
But he's not saying that we can think that thought. It can only appear through the might of Buddha. It's not like
that's his way. Well, of course, Buddhism feels everything we have to do ourselves, really. But I think he's saying that the Buddhas have that ability to create a powerful vibration and an energy which can elicit, which can bring out our goodness. Sometimes you go to an environment or you meet somebody or a very kind person or something, or a very nasty person, they bring out some energy in you. The nasty person brings out some nastiness in you maybe, or aggression, whereas a very good, kind person or very beautiful atmosphere or beautiful place will bring out, you know, certain qualities out of you. You will feel more calm and you know, so forth. I think in that way, you know, the might of the Buddha is there all the time. Skillful means that the Buddha is there all the time. It said, if we have faith and if we remember the Buddha, then the Buddha is here right now in front of us. Of course, we can't see the Buddha due to our karmic obscurations, but Buddha is there. Buddha energy is there all the time. But we are closed down. We are deficient from our side. There's no deficiency from the Buddha's side. Just as there's no deficiency from the sunlight side. It's us who keep the doors and windows closed or the curtains drawn so we don't get the benefit of the sunlight. That's our problem. But the Buddha energy is there all the time. Are you asking a question, Elaine?
Yeah, just was going to say, Kabirji, is exactly what I was going to ask, but you answered it. Is on verse 13, the rhetorical question he asks, why do those who fear their sins not have recourse to it? You know,
yeah.
And you just said it's probably because they have obscurations or no merit. Or
verse 13.
You know?
Even if I've committed extremely unbearable wrongs, why then do the conscientious not devote themselves to this? Yeah, it's due to the part of habitual patterns, isn't it? Habitual ignorance, habitual wrongdoing. We just get used to it. So then we, it's all about self-grasping ignorance, isn't it? The problem we have is self-grasping ignorance. And all these dreadful habitual patterns that we keep on perpetuating, you know, all these unwholesome karmas, we just keep on repeating through habit, you know, mental, physical, and verbal. So in that sense, samsara is a whole bundle of bad habits stemming from self-grasping ignorance and anger and attachment and so forth.
And Kabirji, I think in this first chapter, he's doing a good job of selling us bodhicitta, because if we don't believe that bodhicitta is all this, we're not even going to start to cultivate it. You know, we need to first believe in its benefits, and that is so difficult because we keep reading the verses over and over again. But how much do we actually believe that it's a cure-all, you know?
He's a good salesman,
But in spite of all that, you know, in spite of all this, we are not willing to take that vow or the Bodhisattva vow, or at least have aspirational bodhicitta.
We take the vow, but I wonder how effective it is for us because we're so distracted, for one thing, and so habituated to the eight worldly dharmas, aren't we? Pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, good reputation, bad reputation. We're caught up in all those things. So of course we're going to find it difficult. But as the lamas say, just having the aspiration, even faking the aspiration is we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. So thank you, Vishal. If a man's got to go, a man's got to go. Yeah, go. Yeah. God and devil are at war and our heart is the battlefield. Is that Dostoevsky? Wow. Good one, Sagar. God and devil are at war and our heart is the battlefield. Yeah, that's a very, biblical kind of Western way of looking at it. And also, also we have that. The Kurukshetra is in our hearts as well, not just in Haryana or whatever. Punjab, Haryana, no? Kurukshetra. Chalo, so we're going to stop there. So we'll dedicate. We'll carry on with this tomorrow and maybe do some mantra tomorrow as well. But We'll carry on with Shantideva tomorrow. And so we can pray with Shantideva, as he says in his last chapter, which is such a wonderful chapter, the dedication chapter of this text, the last chapter. He says, may I live and be sustained by simple common foods. In all my lives, may I find the ideal solitude for practicing dharma. For as long as space endures, for as long as living beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the misery of the world. Yeah. It's a marvelous dedication chapter. I prostrate to Manjushri, Manjugosh, through whose kindness wholesome minds ensue, and I prostrate to my spiritual masters, through whose kindness I develop. So we can pray for the long life and health of our spiritual teachers, our guides, and for all of us to have long and healthy lives, so we can practice authentic dharma and never be separated from that. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Nice.
Thank you, Kabirji.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, sir.
Tushita. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. See you maybe tomorrow, some of you.